Rotorua tonight on City News. Labour's big red bus was visiting the community today, making various stops around the city. Mayor Steve Chadwick says last week's visit from Helen Clark has inspired her to create an annual mural speaker event, and the Cancer Society is hard at work preparing for this year's Daffodil Day appeal. Labour's big red bus was visiting the community today, spreading the party's messages and showing support for local candidate Tamati Coffey.
We're set for a pretty big day. We're down here at the Volcanic Playground. We're about to head to the Central Mall. We're going up to Waiariki to talk to the students. Grant Robertson, who's our Labour spokesperson on tertiary education, is going to get up there. He's going to talk to everybody, all of the students, about voting, but also about student loans and about tertiary education. Then we're heading out to Rotorua. We're going out there for a bit of sign waving and a bit more of this, I reckon, and also talking to people about our policies, and that's the biggest thing about this thing. One, we're creating visibility, but two, we need to get our policies out because we've got really strong policies around jobs, homes and families, and we want everybody to know them. When it comes to jobs, we're raising the minimum wage, taking it from $14.25 up to $16.25. That's big. We're going to get rid of the 90-day trial period. Lots of our people have been exposed to that, and there's lots of bad employers that are taking advantage of it. When it comes to homes, we're building 100,000 houses in the next 10 years to help relieve the housing crisis, but also make them affordable so that people like you and your kids can afford to buy their own home one day. And we're also going to make sure that houses are insulated and heated, and we're going to put that back on the landlord. We've got lots of policies out there, but if you need them broken down, come and see me. Our office is just by the City Focus.
Well, we're here in the Central Mall and it is campaign time. Labour has got their great big red bus just outside the doors. Grant Robertson is here now. How are we going to get through and actually make people interested in policies and make it simple and help them make a more informed choice?
I think it's really important that we talk about the issues that affect people's daily lives. Often we say something like the economy is important. Well, what does the economy mean? The economy means, have you got a job and are you being paid good wages that allow you to pay your bills and look after your family? We've got to, as politicians, have got to talk about those sorts of issues, and that's what Labour is all about, creating good jobs with decent wages.
And coming up later in the show, we hear from the other side of the political spectrum when Rotorua MP Todd McClay tells us about his re-election campaign. Mayor Steve Chadwick says last week's visit from former Labour Party leader and Prime Minister Helen Clark was inspirational. Ms Clark is the head of the United Nations Development Programme and while here visited various groups in the city, including talking with students at the Civic Theatre. Mrs Chadwick says inviting Helen Clark to speak here has inspired her to create an annual Mayor's Speakers event.
And the big challenge that she identified, the main message was, when the United Nations was set up, it was to sort out country-to-country conflict, but the conflict happening globally in the world is within countries, and United Nations was never set up for that. So they're now looking, after 2015, how is United Nations geared to help with the conflict on the world stage? So it was an incredibly interesting address.
Yeah, it would be. That's not the hot topic that we usually talk about, so it's really interesting.
We were so inspired by it that I announced that night, I knew she'd be incredible to hear, that we'll have an annual Mayor's Speaker Forum, and now the hunt is on for who do we get next. So very exciting for Rotorua.
And the Rotorua District Council is joining forces with the National Library of New Zealand to bring free internet services to all Rotorua library users. As part of the initiative, the library will be provided with 20 computers at no cost, replacing existing coin-operated computers. Library Manager Jane Gilbert says the service is a significant and exciting step forward for the library and community. The Cancer Society is hard at work preparing for this year's Daffodil Day National Appeal. As reporter Melanie Groves found out, the local office is abuzz with Daffodil Day fever.
Basically, we kicked off with our telemarketing approximately 3 weeks ago, which went really, really well this year, thanks to the generosity of local businesses. And the time that the telemarketers came in, we've exceeded last year's sales by at least 100 bunches. So we're really excited about this year's plans.
In sport tonight, Rotorua District Councillor and Sport and Recreation Portfolio Lead Charles Sturt says tickets for Rotorua's October Netball International between New Zealand and England are proving hot items, nearly selling out. They play at the Energy Event Centre on the 28th of October as part of the new World Series. He says he's been encouraging locals to support the event.
And I encourage all Rotorua people to get along to it. I know that the tickets are already pretty much sold out, but to get that level of international support in Rotorua and our Energy Event Centre it's huge for us.
To your weather update now. Tonight, rain, northeasterlies, freshen overnight, a low of 8. Tomorrow Wednesday, rain easing to showers, northerlies easing, a high of 16 and low of 8. Thursday, showers clearing, becoming fine. Southerlies, a high of 13 and a low of 1. Marine forecast for Lake Rotorua for Wednesday, easing to northerly 10 knots in the morning, then dying out in the evening. Waves easing to less than half a metre. Poor visibility and heavy rain, easing to a few showers and fine spells in the morning. Still to come tonight on City News, we catch up with Rotorua MP Todd McClay, who has news from the electorate, and we find out about a wonderful community initiative called Operation Cover Up.
We're just standing outside the office of our local MP, so let's go inside and find out what Todd McClay's been up to and what's happening in our community. So Todd, can you give us an update on what's happening local? So what's the new news?
Well, it's a really busy time. The campaigns are fully underway. A lot more interest locally. Over the last couple of weeks since Parliament's finished, I've been out campaigning every hour of every day, 7 days a week. It's not too different from being an MP, but I really enjoy campaigns. It's an opportunity where the public want to engage with politicians more, and look, you have great conversations about the things that are working well, the things we need to do more about. So busy time. There have been a couple of really important announcements for Rotorua, particularly around tourism. So there was a very significant investment in a new tourism venture on the way into Rotorua, which will be almost a farm park with a retail complex to retail local and New Zealand products and a very large restaurant, which is going to create up to 47 jobs locally to cater to the international visitor market. Really important, private investors deciding to put money into the local economy to produce jobs for Rotorua people, to bring foreigners, visitors here to enjoy all that Rotorua has to offer. And there's lots of opportunities like that starting to develop as the economy slowly starts to rebuild and strengthen locally.
How did that opportunity come about?
Well, I met these people about a year ago, and they asked if I was the MP, and I said I was, and they wanted to come and see me because they had a bit of an opportunity, and they weren't sure how to move through some of the processes with council. So I was able to give them some advice, set up a few meetings for them, and to a limited degree guide them through the process. But ultimately, it was their decision to invest here in Rotorua. They're spending a significant amount of money, millions and millions of dollars, and it's a great story. On the doorstep of Rotorua, as you drive into town from Nongataha, we'll have a brand new tourist facility where millions of dollars have been invested, where tourists can enjoy themselves, and up to 47 local people will get jobs. That's a win-win.
So we've got so many tourist companies in Rotorua, all specialising in different aspects of tourism. What aspect is this specialising in?
Well, this is very much around probably visitors from parts of Asia that come on bus tours. It's quite an important part of the local economy. But what we're starting to see throughout New Zealand is the number of international visitors coming to New Zealand is growing. So we have about 2.8 million visitors came until the year May of this year, the year up to May of this year. That was about a 6% increase in visitors. But the spend has increased by about 9%. So we're seeing more visitors coming, they're staying a bit longer, and they're spending more. Rotorua is on the doorstep of this. We are one of the big players in tourism around New Zealand. There are a lot of people that have invested their own money in what they offer. I think we have a great product to offer here, and we have a unique ability to take advantage of these growing visitors. I mean, a great example of that is cycling. So the government put in $225,000 from the Tourism Growth Partnership. That's a fund that was set up, $32 million fund set up to drive productivity and innovation in tourism in New Zealand. It must be matched at least dollar for dollar. A Rotorua business put a bid on Skylines. They received $225,000 from an independent group that the government set up to vet all the projects. So the government doesn't make the decision. An independent group looks at whether it will achieve the things we need to in tourism. And they used that money to bring a downhill mountain bike park on Mount Nongataha up to international standard. So we opened it about a week ago. People can now get their bikes, go up on the gondola, ride downhill, do it again. And just in the last day or so, there's been an announcement of the world's biggest mountain bike festival competition coming to Rotorua in 2015 and again in 2016 and 2017. That probably would not have happened if this park wasn't upgraded to international standard, and the taxpayers' investment of $225,000 in Rotorua will be repaid time over and time over and time over. 750 world-class mountain bike competitors from around the world coming to Rotorua every year with the TV cameras. Look, it's starting to buzz, it's starting to grow. There is a lot of really good things starting to happen here in Rotorua.
In unison with that, we also have other bike attractions around Rotorua. Do you expect that the people that come over will take advantage of them as well?
Well, this is it's a package. So what we know when we survey as a government, so I'm the Associate Minister of Tourism, so I have part responsibility for paying attention to these things. What we know is when people come to New Zealand for cycling, they stay longer, they spend a lot more. So we're quite keen as a government to encourage cyclists and others to come to New Zealand to have a holiday, to take part in special events. A whole lot going on in Rotorua. So that's right, we've got the Redwoods. It is the best mountain biking in New Zealand. The best mountain biking in New Zealand. The Gravity Park now is the only downhill park in New Zealand where you can get a gondola up every day of the year. It's year round. Nowhere else can do this. We've got the $3 million National Cycleway the government invested in a couple of years ago, which has opened about a year ago, 74 kilometres past a number of geothermal attractions in this area. Nowhere else in the world can you ride your bike and see that sort of thing. So Rotorua punches above its weight. We are the mountain bike capital of New Zealand. We offer more when it comes to cycling than anywhere else in the country, and it's as simple as this. It brings visitors to Rotorua who spend money in the local economy and create jobs.
Wonderful. Well, Todd, we're just going to go to a quick break and we'll be back with you for some more. So we're back with Todd McClay, who's keeping us up to date with what's happening in our city. So Todd, New Zealand has faced a deep recession, as most of the world has. How do you think that Rotorua has kept up, and how do you think we're doing?
Well, that's right. 6 years ago, when we came to government, the global financial crisis hit the world. New Zealand went into the steepest recession of 50 years. We had the Canterbury earthquakes, which had a huge effect upon not only Canterbury but the New Zealand economy, the Pike River mining disaster, the Rena, everything that could be thrown at a small country seems to have been. And through that, the country and the government has worked very hard, and we're starting to see some positive signs as we come out of the other side of this. So we now in New Zealand have had a growth rate of about 3% of the last year, forecast for around 4% of the next year, one of the better in the OECD, anywhere in the world. Our unemployment rate is falling, first time in a long time, but about a week ago it was announced that the New Zealand's unemployment rate is 5.6%. Compare that to Australia, where it's now 6.4%. Theirs is going in the other direction. Here's what's very interesting, particularly for Rotorua. 6 years ago, about 3,000 people a month net were leaving New Zealand to go to Australia. And that's turned around. 2 months ago there were 200, last month 200. This month the net migration is probably about zero. So that's people returning from Australia to New Zealand because our economy is growing, jobs are being created, and it's the exact opposite of what they face in Australia now. In Rotorua we've also seen some progress. Crime used to be a very large issue here. There is still too much crime, but over the last 4 years reported crime rates in Rotorua have fallen by about 0.5%, then 4.5%, 5%, and in this last year our police are doing an amazing job, a fall of 11.2% in crime in Rotorua. that's fewer victims in our city as people commit fewer crimes. We're seeing improvements in education. 1,500 people took part in apprenticeship type training over the last 3 years. We have a trades academy set up at Wairakei for young people who are not doing as well as we need them to in school, so they can learn a trade. We have a Māori trades training facility set up at Wairakei, announced by the government a few weeks ago. 3,000 places around the country. Wairakei is one of 5 institutions that get to deliver that. That's more young Māori men and women in Rotorua who can train towards a trade and a brighter future. And our unemployment rate in the Bay of Plenty has fallen from about 7% to 5.6%, as in forestry and in agriculture and tourism and trucking and transportation and engineering, people start to create jobs. We still have a long way to go, but I'm really optimistic for Rotorua. We're training young people to give them a better opportunity and a better chance at life. We're supporting businesses by investing in infrastructure. Those businesses are confident are starting to employ more people. We need to continue to cautiously move forward as a country and as a region over the next couple of years, so this growth is sustainable, so local people have more jobs, and so local people can earn more.
Well, in unison with that, the local government has brought out a new gang law, which would obviously help with the change of face of Rotorua. Can you please help?
Well, so local government have been talking about how they can deal with gangs, but the minister responsible for police has just announced a new government approach to support local government, but to be driven by all government departments and ministries. And it's an all-of-government approach to gangs. So you'll know a few years ago, I put a law through Parliament to ban the wearing of gang insignia in schools and hospitals and kindergartens, every government and council building in the country. We've toughened up on gangs and the significant harm that they cause through organised crime and through controlling the drug trade. But as a government, we've also said there are individuals here who are harmed in families, and there will be parts of New Zealand where gangs are present and they have a strong hold, and that some of the children and the family members are also harmed because of the involvement of those families in gangs. So we've said we want to toughen up law and order on gangs, but we want to support communities and families more to create new directions and better directions to help people stay away from gangs and to keep out of trouble. It's quite a different approach. It's not just the law and order aspect. That's important, but it's really supporting communities and saying that if we can have people in education, if we can help them move away from welfare into work, if we can provide the support to the families and the children that most need it the most, there's a greater chance that the influence of gangs will be lessened upon those communities, and therefore fewer victims will be created in New Zealand. I think this is an excellent policy. I support the Minister Antoli fully, and am really keen for Parliament to get back after the election so we can start putting some of these changes in place, because it's about supporting communities and individuals, but also holding gang members and criminals to account.
You've been really busy with your current role and really passionate. I can feel it from you. Where would you like to be and what would you like to do with the next term?
But I'm campaigning to remain Rotorua's local MP. I've enjoyed the last 6 years. I've worked as hard as I can. We've achieved some great things together as a community. I'm keen to continue that work over the next 3 years and show every day that I'm MP that I deserve the support that I've been given, and will continue to work hard as a local MP should people decide to give me their support and their vote again on the 20th of September this year.
Thank you so much for your time, Todd. It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure. Thank you.
There might be thousands of people out there that know about this, but if you're anything like me, you won't be aware that in the backdrops of Ngātaha, there's an operation called Operation Cover-Up. With me today, we're talking with Chris Whitman, who is the coordinator for this operation. Hello, Chris.
Hi.
Operation Cover-Up. Can you please let us know, what is this about?
It started off with knitting blankets for orphans in Eastern Europe. Actually, it started off in Moldova. And it was started off by one lady who had a sponsor child over there. He let her know that all the children there were suffering from frostbite because the only blankets they had were the thickness of a flannelette sheet, and their average temperature in winter is 25 degrees below, which we just can't really imagine. So she decided that she wanted to send some blankets. Now Liz Clark, who started the whole thing, she can't knit a stitch, but she went to her church and her sister church in Turangi, and asked them for help, and she wanted 53 blankets. She ended up with 260 something. So that was when Operation Cover Up started. It started up as a cover-up and it ended up as a big operation. And she decided we could do all the orphanages in Moldova, which we have done. Then Romania heard about us. They asked for help. The Ukraine asked for help. And then this last year, Bosnia, Albania and Bulgaria have also asked for help. So this is very much an ongoing thing, and I can't see it ending in a very long time.
And how did you become involved?
I started off in Kinloch by being asked just to crochet around the squares on the blankets. And that was really my downfall, because not many people crochet these days. Then I thought, well, I can do a bit of knitting, which I did. Then I got a church involved in Taupo. Then we moved to Rotorua, and I almost stopped doing it because it's hard to get all the things over to Taupo. But I decided, no, I carry on. So I got the church, St. John's Church in Rotorua involved. Then, unfortunately, my husband got very ill and he died. So I didn't do much for a while. And then I thought, no, I can do more. So I got hold of the Weekender. And the weekend I got hold of them, Liz Clark phoned me up and said, oh, by the way, I've made you a coordinator. She never asks you, she just tells you. She's a lovely lady. And it's just absolutely gone mad since then.
So what kind of products do you send overseas?
It's mostly, blankets are the big thing for the single beds and for the cots for the babies. But it very, very quickly changed into anything that can be knitted to keep babies warm, right through to elderly people, because we don't just help the orphanages now, we help families at risk, and their families where there's an awful lot of solo mothers over there, because when communism collapsed, the men lost their jobs, a lot of them committed suicide, a lot of them went on to the vodka, and the women have been left on their own. If we don't help them, I'm thinking of one family in particular, a mother with 7 children in the most awful house you've ever seen. 2 of her children have bad medical problems, which she spends most of her money on. If we don't help her, she has to choose out of those 7 children which go to the orphanage, and she loves every single one. So how can she choose?
So when was your latest shipment sent?
On the 5th of August. At least it was packed up in Taupo. It'll now be up in Auckland, being put into the containers.
Okay, Chris, now I've seen a whole load of wool out the back. Can we go and have a look?
Yeah, sure. Wonderful.
So you've got half of what you have in your house here on the table. Where did this all come from?
Rotorua and Nongata, and I'd really like to thank them because they are just so generous in Rotorua. We've managed to keep up our quota, which other centres haven't, and it's all due to the generosity of people in Rotorua. So thank you.
Well, you're a generous person yourself, so thank you for having us, Chris. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much for coming.
A great community initiative there. That was Operation Cover Up Coordinator Chris Whitman talking to Melanie Groves. If you have a news event TV Rotorua can support, call our office and talk with one of the team on 07 3488 984 or email news@tvrotorua.co.nz. And if you've missed anything in tonight's show, you can watch again at tvrotorua.co.nz. Thanks for watching tonight from all the team here at City News. For Māori Rotorua.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.